What's up, welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of Alien Romulus, the new science fiction horror film from Fede Álvarez. This is the 7th mainline Alien film, the first since Ridley Scott's Alien Covenant way back in 2017. Been a minute, long anticipated, because even if the Alien franchise is not a massive blockbuster franchise, it is certainly a successful, healthy franchise with a loyal fan base. This, of course, is the first Alien movie since Disney acquired the rights to the franchise following the Fox deal, and some notable shifts were done in the creation, the conception of Romulus. One, of course, you have a new creator in Fede Álvarez, known for his horror work, such as the Evil Dead movies, but I think namely, Alien Romulus was done at the right price point. This movie was made for $80 million. And frankly, I think it looks great. The budget went far for sure. But the key there is that this is a movie that doesn't have to be a massive movie to be successful. And I think that was kind of what felled, Alien Covenant and ended that prequel series from Ridley right then and there, is that those movies ultimately cost too much given the actual popularity of Alien. Unfortunately, I do like those movies quite a lot, especially Prometheus. Ultimately, Alien Romulus is a back-to-the-basics Alien movie in terms of having some familiar story beats, but frankly, I think the movie is successful on multiple levels. It's both very appealing to hardcore Alien fans for what it does for the long-standing Alien lore in terms of asking questions about its world, but it's also quite appealing to a more casual Alien viewer because I think this is a film, like the best Alien movies, has a lot of intelligence, has really effective and intriguing world building. It has great production design. The budget went a long way with this movie. Alien Romulus has some quite clever set pieces. What Alien Romulus does with its synthetic character, I think, is also quite impressive. Certainly didn't see that coming. And I also wasn't quite expecting as much fan service in relation to the original Alien movie and some of the threads from Prometheus and whatnot. I did not expect that to continue and be so layered into Romulus. But ultimately, I think it's fun that they find a way to keep some fan service in this movie, considering Alien is a massive blockbuster franchise. It actually is kind of fun that they were able to sprinkle some of that stuff in. Cailee Spaeny is the star, Rain, in this film, of course, picking up the mantle of the Alien final girl, of course, made famous by Sigourney Weaver, and then continued more recently by Numi Rapace and Catherine Waterston. Spaény's had a banner 12 months, Civil War, and now Alien Romulus. She's great. She's always capable. She's always, I think, a really great presence. And we say this with a lot of her movies, but because she's small, because she's very precocious looking, the underdog nature of her in terms of fighting to survive against the aliens, you naturally root for her and you take her side. The big surprise, though, as I said, would be the synthetic character, Andy, played by David Jonsson, who I first became aware of from his role on HBO's Industry. Andy is a glitchy, not high functioning synthetic. Of course, we know synthetics from the Alien series. Of course, famously Ian Holmes' Ash from the original. More recently, Michael Fassbender's David. Synthetic character is pretty core to Alien storytelling, Alien's world building. But the Andy character being one who's like a stand-in for someone who's mentally challenged in some way, I think is done in a really kind of clever, unexpected way in terms of the early storytelling here, in terms of you sympathizing with this character in a certain way. And then as the movie progresses and they're able to upgrade the synthetics chip, and Andy becomes a lot more capable and intelligent and more physically able as well, the movie completely flips, and especially when his motivation and his programming changes, and then you start to almost root against him in a certain sense. I think it's all done really well. And it's also the biggest character trait for Cailee Spaény's Rain, because she's portrayed from the beginning as someone who's very selfless and caretaking. And she's always taking care of Andy as her adoptive brother, even though he's a synthetic that isn't even that helpful. I think the central premise of Alien Romulus is also quite appealing. And like I said, I think they take the production a long way, despite clearly trying to keep this movie smaller in scope. But the premise of a bunch of, colonist kids wanting to escape their derelict world, and they realize there's a abandoned spaceship, they think really a space station, orbiting their planet, and they're going to take that to escape, to parts unknown. Really smart. And of course, the audience, we know right away, oh, surely there's aliens on that space station. Surely it's abandoned for a reason. Things went wrong. It's familiar, but it's familiar because we love that shit. That is a core tenet of Alien. I also really like the beginning, honestly, when we get to be on that colony world and actually see the world of, Alien, the world of living within the sphere of Weyland-Yutani Corporation, right? Like actually seeing like people in the flesh, seeing a colony. I would have liked more time with it, but like it's very Blade Runner-y, right? It's very cyberpunk, and I think that's something that people have always wanted to clamor for, is like just more of that alien world if you're like a big fan. So that was really fun, and ultimately the movie pretty efficiently gets us off that planet onto the space station, I think, in a pretty good manner. Now, I mentioned the connection to the past films. There's some references visually to like the black goo of the prequel trilogy. You don't really have to recognize that, but I thought it was kind of intriguing that we're taking that reference, and Wayland's actually trying to research something more positive, and the way it's pitched anyway. And it's pitched by a specific character, and that, of course, would be this damaged synth they encounter on the space station, Rook, digitally played by the late Ian Holm, aka Ian Holm of the original Alien, playing the android Ash. It's basically another Ash. And obviously, Ian Holm passed away a few years ago, so this is a complete, digital creation. Obviously, nowadays that's certainly AI enhanced, a la Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One or Princess Leia. This is something that's become a bit more common. Ultimately, I think ethically it's still a bit challenging. It's certainly a bit of a hang up, especially because you can tell it's not real, even though I think it looks good, like it's effective effects, but it's not real. And that's whether Ian Holm actually is dead or not. Like, even if you don't know who that is, like, you can tell it's like not a real person, right? That being said, I do think the presence of this new Ash actually works kind of well, especially towards the end when it becomes this kind of boogeyman who's trying to program Andy to, serve Yutani's mission and the original mission of this space station, which was based on researching the original xenomorph that Ripley shoots into space at the end of the original Alien movie. Of course, Romulus, from the beginning, we've been told that this is a movie that takes place between Alien and Aliens, so it's the second Alien movie in that stretch there. The movie certainly stands alone and works without like much knowledge of this, but I wasn't quite expecting as much like direct referencing to the original Alien or even some of the threads from the prequel. I do think it's fun fan service. I don't think it gets in the way of the movie. I think ultimately the movie works like start to finish. Again, more back to the basics, some familiar beats of Alien, but I think it's done pretty good. And what's fun, I think, is there's two really awesome set pieces. One, when Rain, Andy, and one of Rain's friends, they have to escape or sneak past all the face huggers. By doing so, by like keeping their temperature down, matching the temperature of the room. I think it's really clever, almost like a video game level, you could say. Just something I haven't quite seen before like that. And then also there's a really great like anti-gravity sequence that is, I think red herringed or foreshadowed effectively in the beginning of the movie in terms of the gravity being able to be manipulated on the station. But the of course famous acid of the aliens, their blood, so to speak, we know how powerful and lethal it is from all the Alien movies. But to have that be floating in anti-gravity, and then Andy and Rain having to dip, duck, and dodge around floating alien acid so it doesn't kill them. Really clever. I thought that was done really well. There's also a classic race against the clock in terms of the space station like falling out of orbit into this surrounding asteroid belt that is around the planet, like the planetary rings. I think that's done really well. It looks really cool as well. I think the most polarizing aspect of Alien Romulus is probably that last 20 minutes, because I thought the movie was about to end. They kill the last alien, do a great job. We see a lot of aliens too. It's almost like James Cameron's Aliens, where there's a lot of xenomorphs at the end. It's fun. The action, I think, is pretty compelling. But, it pays off. Isabel Merced is like the last surviving friend who was pregnant, as we had learned in the beginning. You knew that was going to come back. I thought they were going to kind of leave that thread of, was she actually, affected in some way by the aliens when she was taken? I figured that would be almost like a thread to end the movie with, like a suggestion, a la some of the other ways alien movies have ended, with kind of like open-ended thoughts and references. But no, there's actually like another 20 minutes left where, she dies because she gives birth to this human alien hybrid because she takes the drug that had been researched on the station. And what you get is this like complete abomination alien xenomorph humanoid creature. Hulking, ugly, asymmetrical, all of that. And it comes really fast and a bit abruptly, I would say. I didn't really think he even needed this sequence in the movie, because I thought everything to that point had worked and wrapped up really well. I was pretty satisfied. Again, maybe it ends in a familiar place, but I was cool with it. I was not expecting this ending. That being said, I think you're pretty invested in Cailee Spaeny's reign at that point. That like starts to, be pretty fun. Maybe it's not. I think the biggest issue with it though is it's not the best set piece or sequence in the movie. It's almost kind of like the end of Alien Covenant, just not quite as interesting or fun. Ultimately, like shooting an alien out the airlock, common way for these conflicts to end. It is what it is. I think a lot will be said about that. In terms of the hardcore alien faithful, maybe people that are more casual. I'm very curious, like the response to that ending piece. Even if I think overall the movie works. On one hand, it is an example of the Alien franchise pushing something forward and not doing something necessarily back to the basics. The alien human hybrid is like maybe a thread that Weyland-Yutani had been working on this entire time. I'm sure people have theorized this before, but we never seen that portrayed in any way. So in a sense, it is something new, but the execution maybe felt a little bit abrupt in the context of how Alien Romulus had been going to that point. Even if, Chekhov's pregnancy had been introduced, early on in the movie. So that being said, really enjoyed Alien Romulus. I mean, it's great to have a mainline Alien film back again, and I think because that Alien is now under the stewardship of Disney and like back on its feet in the film world once again, the fact that they have this movie like cost controlled in a certain way, I think is great for the long-term health of Alien. We're going to get more Alien movies, and they're just not going to be massive blockbusters, but I think that's fine. I think there's a lot of room for creativity in this franchise. It's, it's an old franchise, but it's not one like lacking in any juice at all these days, a la like Terminator, right? Like I think there's a lot of like appetite for Alien. So even if it's not like Marvel level appetite. So looking forward to more Alien movies. Also, of course, looking forward to FX and Noah Hawley's Alien Earth TV series coming out next year. That filming is already wrapped, starring Sidney Chandler and Alex Lawther. Very excited to see more Alien and Alien on the TV screen. Be awesome. But let me know, what did you think of Alien Romulus? What did you think of the perhaps more polarizing aspects? What are you most looking forward to seeing next from the franchise? And for more movie reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.